Paratmanamekam jagadbijamadyam niriham nirakaram onkar vedyam yato jayate palyate yena vishvam tamisham bhaje liyate yatra vishvam. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Dear devotees, in the last class, we had finished the first three shlokas of the 9th chapter. And in these three shlokas, we find Sri Krishna telling us about the significance and importance of this great knowledge, the knowledge of the Supreme Reality. And he is praising, the first two verses is in praise of this Brahma Vidya. And the third verse, it's a condemnation or denunciation of those people, those who don't have faith in this Brahma Vidya. Indirectly, that is also a praise of this greatest knowledge and the greatest secret. Two things. Sri Krishna used these two beautiful terms, Rajavidya and Rajaguhyam. The greatest among all the sciences and also the most profound and the greatest secret, because this is not known to anyone. And anyone who doesn't have faith in this great knowledge, the consequences of that is that we don't attain it. We fail to attain it. And we fall back on the path of repeated transmigration. So these three verses are in praise of this great wisdom. And in and through that, Sri Krishna is actually drawing our attention to this. He is making our mind first prepared to receive the highest truth. Now that highest truth is what is being told in the next three verses, which is very important. This is going to be the highest picture of reality. What we understand by the term God, Ishvara, or the ultimate reality. That is what is being presented in the next three verses. Let us see. It is a divine paradox. As I stated in the last class, paradox is a statement or a proposition where two contradictory things coexist in the same locus and at the same time, which goes beyond human logic and reasoning. This is exactly is the situation with which we are going to be presented now in the next three verses. So let's see what it is. Having drawn Arjuna's attention through this eulogy, Krishna says, first Krishna drew Arjuna's attention. Krishna is drawing our attention. He wants us to pay full attention to what is being told now, because this is the highest truth. This is what is Rajavidya, the greatest knowledge, the knowledge about the real nature of the Supreme Reality. So what is the Supreme Reality? Maya tatamidam sarvam jagad avyaktamurtina Matsthani sarvabhutani nachaham teshvavasthitah nacha matsthani bhutani pashya me yogamaishvaram bhutabhranna cha bhutastho mamatma bhuta bhavanah. Sri Krishna is saying here, every word is important. What term should I use? I'm just thinking about that. I'll be using two terms. It is the relationship between God and the Jagat, which we are experiencing. And when I use the term God, what it means is pure consciousness. Again, I repeat, when I'm using the term God, what it refers to is pure consciousness. Another term for this consciousness is Atman. So it is the relationship between consciousness and this Jagat which we are experiencing. It is a relationship between consciousness and matter. To put it further in a simple language, it is actually the relationship between consciousness and matter. Chaitanya and Jada. To use the Sanskrit terms, it is the relationship between what is Chaitanya, consciousness, and what is Jadam. That's all. So Krishna is saying, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. Maya avyakta murtina idam sarvam jagat tatam. What does it mean? He is saying that this entire world now means in totality, whatever we are experiencing. The gross, the subtle, the causal, the manifested, the unmanifested. In short, when we use the term Jagat, we should understand Jagat means what? The three states which we all experience in our day-to-day life. It is the waking, the dream, and the sleep. These three together is what is Jagat or world. So Jagat is not only what we are experiencing here in the waking state. It includes our dream experience. It includes our sleep experience. Now, nobody has experienced anything outside of these three states. All our experiences are just within the bounds of these three states. No one is experiencing anything beyond the three states. This is what is understood by the term Jagat or world. Now, Krishna is saying that Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. Simple. He is saying that through me in my unmanifested form. Me means what? Consciousness. Consciousness without any limiting adjunct. Pure consciousness, not limited by any names and forms. Through me, which is pure consciousness, this entire Jagat is pervaded. Then he says, Matsthani sarvani bhutani. This entire world is dwelling in me, in consciousness. Nachaham teshu avastita. But I, this pure consciousness, is not dwelling in the world. Consciousness is pervading this entire world. The world is dwelling in consciousness, but consciousness is not dwelling in the world. Then, Let us go ahead. I will then simplify the whole thing. Then Sri Krishna is saying, Nachamasthani bhutani. Just in the earlier statement, Krishna had said that this entire world is dwelling in me. Now he is saying, nothing is dwelling in me. In the earlier statement, Krishna said, this entire world, it is dwelling in consciousness. And now he says, nothing is dwelling in me. Pashyame yogamaishwaram. This is my divine yoga. This is my divine nature. This is the picture of supreme reality. Bhuta bhranna cha bhutasto mamatma bhuta bhavanaha. He says, I am the originator and sustainer of everything here. I means the consciousness which is the originator and sustainer of everything. And yet, I do not dwell in anything. It's all paradox. Now let me simplify the whole thing. What is Krishna stating here? It is a relationship between matter and consciousness. Let us go back to the 7th chapter of the Gita. We studied the 7th chapter of the Gita, where Ishvara's two Prakriti was presented. One is Para Prakriti and the other is Apara Prakriti. Is it not? What is this Apara Prakriti? Apara Prakriti is what? Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu Kham Mano Buddhi Revacha Ahankaram Iti Yamme Bhinna Prakriti Ashtadha Apareyam. Krishna says, this is my Apara Prakriti. Apara Prakriti means what? Purely speaking, it is nothing but matter. And Itastwanyam Vidhi me Prakritim me Param. And beyond this so-called Apara Prakriti is my Para Prakriti. Jiva Bhutam Mahabahu Yayedam Dharyate Jagat, which is of the nature of consciousness. So Krishna in the 7th chapter, he has mentioned that, see, these are the two things which everybody is experiencing. The lower Prakriti is matter and the higher Prakriti is consciousness. So whatever we are experiencing here, it is all nothing but matter and consciousness. But now the question is, how is this consciousness related to this so-called matter? So Krishna in the 9th chapter, the highest picture of this reality, the real nature of God, the real nature of the supreme reality. What is it? This consciousness is pervading everything. Consciousness in its unmanifested form. It is pervading everything. Now, pervading everything means what? Now, only a thing which is nameless and formless, which is limitless, can pervade all the names and forms. This is the first condition. Anything which has got a name and form, it cannot be all-pervading. Again, I repeat. Anything which has got a name and form, it cannot be all-pervading, because the names and forms, it limits the reality. The moment names and forms come, it actually speaking limits the reality. So, for something to become all-pervading, that thing has to be devoid of names and forms. Krishna's this presentation of the supreme reality here is that reality which is devoid of names and forms. That is why it can pervade everything. And Shankaracharya makes a very important point. As this reality is devoid of names and forms, it cannot be perceived by our sensory system. It is not indriya grahyam. You cannot see it with our sense organs. It transcends the sensory plane. It transcends the mental plane. At the same time, it pervades all the sense organs and it pervades everything. Then Krishna has said that I am pervading, this consciousness pervades everything. And he has said that everything, this entire world is dwelling in me. Matsthani sarva bhutani. What does this mean? A very important statement. Shankaracharya says here, what is the meaning of this entire world dwelling in consciousness? It means only this much, that this world is deriving its reality and existence from consciousness. Minus this consciousness factor, this world has got no reality by itself. In itself, this world has got no reality. It is this presence of consciousness which makes this mysterious thing appear to be real. It's a very important point. I'm reminded of Sri Ramakrishna's that statement. You may be having hundreds of zeros. These zeros have got no value. But if you put one before these zeros derive value. Minus this one, these zeros have got no value. There can be billions of zeros. It is all zeros. Means it is not existing. From where does these zeros derive its value? It is deriving its value from the one. That is the meaning of the statement, Matsthani sarva bhutani. This entire creation is dwelling in consciousness, means it is existing because of consciousness. It derives its existence from the consciousness. It derives its reality from the consciousness. If consciousness were not there behind it, it is totally non-existent. So what we are referring to as this world, it has got only a borrowed reality. Its reality is not by its own self. Here everything appears to be real. Why? Because Brahman is there behind everything. Now see, it is giving us a higher picture of what we are experiencing here. Here behind and inside everything, it is Brahman which is existing, and it is Brahman which is giving a sense of realism to what we are seeing on the surface. So everything is existing in Brahman means what? Everything derives its existence and reality from Brahman. All these things have got only a borrowed reality and a borrowed existence. It doesn't exist by its own self. It doesn't have a reality in its own self. This is the meaning of the statement that everything is existing in Brahman, everything is existing in God. Matsthani sarva bhutani. Then Krishna said, this is a very interesting statement. Everything is existing in consciousness or everything is existing in God means what? These things have got no independent reality or existence. Then Krishna says, but I am not existing in them. Consciousness is not existing in them. What does it mean? Shankaracharya makes a beautiful observation here. This consciousness is absolutely contactless. It is not in contact with anything here. It is not in contact with anything means what? Actually speaking, there is no second entity called world which is existing. For two things to come in contact with each other, there has to be two things. When we talk about contact, the contact is always between two things. This God or consciousness which we are talking about, it is non-dual. There is no actual second thing existing apart from consciousness or God or Brahman. So the second thing called world is a mysterious entity. Now that will be revealed in the next few verses. The so-called, the second thing called world or matter is a mysterious entity about which elsewhere Shankaracharya says Actually speaking, it is an experience of something which is not actually existing. Now see, it's all paradox. These sentences, actually speaking, it goes beyond the realm of logic and reasoning. What do you mean by the statement, experience of something which is not actually existing? The only thing that we can talk about is, it's a great wonder, it's a great mystery, what we are experiencing here. So we can take some examples here. If you just look into the, Shankaracharya elsewhere in his Madhukya Upanishad Bhashyam, this relationship between consciousness and this world, he says it is just like a painting on a canvas. Now, during Shankaracharya's time, that was the only thing available. The Sanskrit term he uses there is very beautiful. He says, Chalachitravat. I'm sorry, Chitrita iva patam or Patachitravat. Beautiful thing. In his Bhashya, he says, this entire world which we are experiencing, it is just like a painting on a canvas. Patachitravat or Chitrita iva patam. Now, during Shankaracharya's time, that was the only thing available for him to take as an illustration. At that time, Chalachitram was not there. Chalachitram means movie, is it not? If Chalachitram had existed during his time, definitely he would have used this term called, this entire relationship between consciousness and this Jagat, it is just like Chalachitravat. The relationship between consciousness, God, and this world, it is just like a movie on a screen. Now look into this statement from this standpoint to make this whole thing understand. What is the relationship between the movie and the screen? Go by this very statement. The first statement which Sri Krishna says here, Maya tatam idam sarvam. Maya means I, who am the screen, the consciousness, on which the movie is projected. This entire movie is pervaded by the screen, is it not? Entire movie is pervaded by screen. There is no part of the movie where the screen is not present. Number one, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani. This entire Jagat called movie, or the movie called Jagat, is existing in the screen. This entire world is existing in consciousness. This entire movie is existing in the screen. But nachaham teshu avasthita. But is the screen existing in the movie? Screen is not existing in the movie. Screen is in screen itself. This movie is a mysterious entity. It comes, it goes. And movie's sense of movie derives its realism from the screen. If the screen were not there, will there be any existence for the movie? When Sri Krishna says, Matsthani sarva bhutani, everything is existing in me, what it means is that this everything is deriving its reality and existence from me, consciousness. This everything called the movie, it is appearing to be real owing to the screen which is behind the movie. Minus the screen, this movie would not even exist. And is the screen existing in the movie? No, screen is not existing in the movie. Nachaham teshu avasthita. Then the next statement. Nachamasthani bhutani. Krishna is saying, in the first sloka he said, everything is dwelling in me. Now he says, nothing is dwelling in me. It's a beautiful statement. Everything is dwelling in consciousness as well as it is not dwelling in consciousness. Pashyame yoga maishwaram. Look at my divine yoga. This is my true nature. Beautiful. Everything is dwelling in me. Nothing is dwelling in me. Everything is dwelling in consciousness. Nothing is dwelling in consciousness. The movie is dwelling on the screen. The movie is not dwelling in the screen. Actually speaking, even when the movie is going on, what is actually existing there? Screen alone is existing, is it not? We all have watched movies in cinema theater, we know that. When we watch a movie, What is actually existing there? Is the movie really existing? What is actually existing is screen and screen alone, is it not? Nothing else is existing. So the movie, in one way, we have to say that it is dwelling in the screen or on the screen. At the same time, nothing is dwelling on the screen. Screen alone is existing. Pashya me yogam aishwaram. This is my true nature. So what is the characteristic of this screen? This screen is absolutely not in contact with anything apart from its own self. There is not a second entity called movie with which it is in contact with. The screen is absolutely devoid of any contact with a second entity called Jagat, because the second entity called Jagat is a mysterious thing. It is an experience of something which is not actually existing. Pashya me yogam aishwaram. This is my divine. This is my true nature. This is the true nature of God. This is the true nature of the Supreme Reality. Actually, what these two verses are presenting here is it is presenting the absolute transcendence of the so-called God. It is presenting the absolute transcendence of this thing called consciousness or God. It is a beautiful thing. In the first line, Krishna is talking about this consciousness pervading everything. Means it is immanence. Even when the consciousness is pervading everything, it is presented as an immanent truth. It is immanent without damaging its transcendence. These are all very tricky statements. Even when consciousness is pervading here everything, it is absolutely transcendent. It is an transcendent, immanent reality. Even when it is immanent, it is absolutely transcendent. Its transcendence is absolutely not disturbed. Because the thing which it is pervading, actually speaking, it is not existing. Actually, what is existing is consciousness and consciousness alone. In Mandukya Upanishad, the beautiful term comes. Gaudapadacharya refers to this consciousness or Brahman as asparsha. Asparsha means without any contact. Because in truth, there is no second entity existing apart from the Supreme Reality. And the last statement here, in the verse number 5, verse number 5, Krishna says, Bhuta Brahna cha bhutastho mamatma bhuta bhavanaha. This consciousness is the Bhuta Bran and Bhuta Bhavanaha. Bhuta Bhavana means what? This consciousness is the one thing which is the originator of this movie, and it is the one thing which is sustaining the movie. At the same time, the consciousness is not existing in them. Bhuta Brahna cha bhutasto mamatma bhuta bhavanaha. This consciousness is the originator and sustainer of everything here without actually being in contact with anything here. Again, I repeat this point. This consciousness is the originator and sustainer of everything here without actually being in contact with anything, because there is no second entity apart from its own self. This is going to be a bit difficult to grasp the non-dual nature of the Supreme Reality, because we have always lived with a firm belief in the realism of what we are actually seeing here. Now, if you take some of the examples, it will become more clear. One beautiful illustration is this illustration of the screen and the cinema. The movie is existing on the screen means it derives its realism and existence from the screen. The screen is pervading the movie. Pervading the movie. Is the screen in contact with the movie? Actually speaking, there is no movie with which it can be in contact with, because even when the movie is going on, what is actually existing is screen and screen alone. There is no actual second entity with which it can come into contact with. So this contactlessness of that screen is what is presented here. Again, I repeat, these verses have got only one theme to present: the contactlessness of the Supreme Reality. It is not in contact with anything. And as it is not in contact with anything, it is unchanging, it is unaffected, it is immortal. If it comes in contact with a second entity, it will be affected. Elsewhere, Shankaracharya says beautifully in Mandukya Upanishad, you see, if we clearly understand the transcendent nature of our own true self, the outcome is going to be beautiful. What is going to be the outcome? See, these are all the practical conclusions which we can draw from this discussion. The Supreme Reality which we are talking about, it is absolutely transcendent to everything that is happening here. It is contactless. Actually speaking, our true self is not in contact with anything here. If it comes in contact with anything, it will change. It will become mortal. It will be affected. Shankaracharya says, if we understand the real nature in this way, and if you understand that you are that, the outcome of this great knowledge is going to be threefold. Beautiful. You will be realizing yourself to be absolutely distinct from the three states: avasthatraya vatiriktatvam, shuddhatvam. You will realize your pure nature. We are all in our true nature absolutely pure. Again, I repeat, we are all in our true nature absolutely pure. No dirt, no impurity can touch any one of us, because we are in our true nature absolutely devoid of any contact with anything called material. In our true nature, we are all born pure. We are absolutely distinct from the three states, and we are absolutely detached. Three words Shankaracharya beautifully uses. So this is the conclusion which we can draw from these two verses. The relationship between the screen and the movie. The movie is in the screen, number one. The screen is pervading the movie, number two. And when we say that the movie is existing on the screen, or the movie is dwelling on the screen, what it means is that the movie is deriving its realism and existence from the screen. Minus the screen, the movie has got no reality. So the movie is dwelling on the screen as well as the movie is not dwelling on the screen. Because even when the movie is going on, what is actually existing is screen and screen alone. That is a so-called mutually contradictory, a paradoxical kind of a statement which Sri Krishna is making, that everything is existing in me, nothing is existing in me. The movie is existing on the screen, nothing is existing on the screen. So beautiful. Whether the movie is there or it is not there, what is actually existing is screen and screen alone. Similarly, this Jagrat Sapna Sushupti, which Anubhuti, which we are having, the three states which we are experiencing, it is going on the screen of the Atman. Now, this is something beautiful. It is happening with all of us. We have never paid attention to it. Every day we are going through these states, the waking state, the dream state, and the sleep state. This is just like a movie which is going on. A little while later, this will go, this will all go. Another state will present. The dream state will come. Then that dream state also will go. Then the third state will come. The deep sleep state will come. Where is all this series of experiences taking place? It is taking place in your own true self, which is the Atman, which is consciousness. On that screen of consciousness, this movie of Jagrat Sapna Sushupti is going on. So where is this movie called Jagrat Sapna Sushupti dwelling? It is dwelling on the screen of the Atman. Here, it is happening. It is dwelling on the screen of the Atman means it is appearing to be real because of the presence of the Atman. Minus the presence of the Atman, this called Jagrat of Sapna Sushupti, doesn't have any reality at all. Minus the presence of this consciousness called Atman, which is our true nature, which is your true nature, this Jagrat Sapna Sushupti will have no reality at all. So it is deriving its reality from the Atman, which is your true self, your true self, your true self. So Jagrat Sapna Sushupti, this movie is going on your own true self, which is the Atman, which is the consciousness. And this movie called Jagrat Sapna Sushupti is pervaded by the Atman. Atman pervades this Jagrat Sapna Sushupti without being in contact with it. There is no contact. That is a beautiful thing. Shankaracharya says, for a thing to be in contact with another thing, he gives a beautiful example here. There is a pot and there is some eatable. Inside the pot, you keep the eatables, is it not? So the pot contains the so-called eatable. Similarly, Shankaracharya says, this so-called world cannot contain the consciousness. The world is not a pot which will contain that reality called consciousness. For one thing to contain another thing, both the things have to belong to the same category, the material plane. Your consciousness is not matter and this world is all material. And how can this so-called, this Jagat contain? The point is, this world cannot contain the consciousness. It cannot constrict it. It cannot limit it. This world which we are talking about, it is so small. And it is material. How can the matter limit consciousness? It cannot limit consciousness. That is why this consciousness is pervading the so-called material plane without actually being in contact with it. Again, I emphasize this point. The main stress here is the contactless nature of consciousness. It is not in contact with anything. And that is our true nature. When we understand ourselves in this way, the conclusion will be that we are all, which Shankaracharya keeps on telling, we are all Nitya Shuddha, Nitya Buddha, Nitya Mukta. Even now, our true nature is what? We are eternally pure, eternally free, and eternally awake. The screen. So that is the meaning of these two verses. Once again, let me just put it in simple language. Here, Sri Krishna is saying that, you see, consciousness pervades everything. Consciousness in its unmanifest form is pervading everything here. It is pervading without being in contact with anything. Because actually speaking, the second thing is not existing. Just like the screen which is pervading the entire movie, the screen is pervading the entire movie without actually being in contact with the movie. Because there is, actually speaking, there is no second entity called a movie which is actually existing. Then this movie is dwelling on the screen. This entire world is dwelling on consciousness. And when we say that this entire world of the movie is dwelling on the consciousness, what it means is that this so-called entire thing called world is deriving its existence and reality from consciousness. The movie is existing on the screen means the movie is deriving its reality and existence from the screen. Third point, then Krishna says, this screen is not existing in the movie. This consciousness is not existing in the world. When Sri Krishna is saying that this consciousness is not existing in the world, what does it mean is that this material plane cannot contain the consciousness, it cannot limit the consciousness. The three states of Jagrat, Supta, Sushupti cannot limit Brahman, it cannot limit our own true self. 3 points, these are all extremely, this is what is Advaitam. In whichever way you look, there are no two things here. It is screen and screen alone which is existing. The so-called, the second entity which we are referring to as Jagat, it is a mysterious entity. It is an experience of something which is not actually existing. Without actually existing, we are experiencing it. The only thing that we can talk about it is, as Shankaracharya says, Mahadbhutam, Anirvachaniyam. It's a Mahadbhutam, it's a great wonder. Experience of something which is not actually existing. What do you mean by that? Who makes this experience possible? Where there is only one, a second entity appears mysteriously. Who is that mystery maker? Somebody is here as a mystery maker. We'll come to that point. That is what is Maya, a great word. Where Brahman alone is existing, through Brahman's own Maya, the so-called the movie appears. Let us take one more example before we go ahead. You take our own dream experience. Every day we all dream. In the dream we have the same kind of a world which we are experiencing here. In the dream, we all have the same kind of world which we are experiencing here. And when the dream is going on, that dream world is not a dream world. It is a real world. Just like this is real. Any doubt? When we dream, at that time, we don't know that we are dreaming. For the time being, that dream world is not a dream world. It is just like this. It's a real, so-called real waking world. Tell me, where is that dream experience going on? Is it going on anywhere outside of your own self? It is happening in you, you who are the screen. Every day this is happening. Is that dream experience happening somewhere outside of you? It's a very important question. Remember one thing. See, the conclusions, we have to come to some very firm conclusions and clarity. The thing called God which we are looking for, it is present in our experience itself. The thing called God which we are looking for here and there, the temples here and there, this entity called God is existing in our experience itself. In every experience. This very experience here, see this classroom, we are all experiencing something. You are listening to some sounds. We are all seeing each other. This is an experience, it's an anubhuti. This anubhuti is soaked and saturated with the presence of Brahman. Soaked and saturated with the presence of Brahman without Brahman being in touch with anything. Again, I repeat this point. Here, this very moment, what is going on, it's an anubhuti. And this anubhuti is saturated with the presence of Brahman or consciousness without consciousness being in contact with anything. Can you imagine that? That is what Krishna is presenting here. So beautiful. Again, let me repeat this point. What we are experiencing here, this is an anubhuti. And this anubhuti is saturated, it is fully soaked in the presence of God without God being in touch with anything. Because actually speaking, there is no second entity existing apart from Brahman or consciousness. So where is all these things existing? It is existing in Brahman, without Brahman being in contact with anything. And when I say that all this is existing in Brahman, it means that all these things are deriving its reality from Brahman on which this play is going on. All these things are dwelling in Brahman, and at the same time, they do not dwell in Brahman. Because these things come and go, Brahman is the only thing which is actually existing. All these things come and go. Now it's the waking state. This will go away. The dream state will come. Then the dream state will go away. The sleep state will come. No matter which state exists on the surface, what is actually existing is Brahman and Brahman alone. All the states are completely saturated with the presence of Brahman, which you are, which I am. That is our true nature. When we understand our true nature to be of that kind, a beautiful conclusions which we can draw is that entity is absolutely untouched by anything because there is no second thing with which it can be in touch with. It is asprishta, it is vatirikta, it is shuddha, it is asanga. We are actually speaking absolutely untouched by any suffering and misery in life. Now see, the conclusion is that we have endless sufferings and miseries. Why? It is only owing to one thing, ajnanam. Ajnanena avritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. All beings overpowered by this mysterious force called ajnanam, we are suffering. In truth, no suffering, no misery can touch anybody. No impurity can touch anybody. No sin. There is no sin in Vedanta. It's all purity. It's all purity. It's all purity. Our true nature is always eternally pure, eternally free, and eternally non-attached. So this is the meaning of these two verses here. Krishna is saying. And the last line is so beautiful. Bhuta brahna cha bhutasto mamatma bhuta bhavanaha. I am the sustainer and originator of everything without me actually being in contact with anything. The screen is not in contact with the movie. Any doubt? Achha, if the screen were really in contact with the movie, okay, let us understand this point a little bit. Suppose in the movie there is a scene where there is a fire, okay, a volcano, and there is a fire. We all watch movies. So in the movie there is a scene where there is fire, a forest fire, a conflagration where everything is being burned to ashes. If the screen were in actual contact with the movie, the screen also will burn. Does it happen? On the screen you may see fire, you may see flood. Does the screen become wet? The screen's relationship with the movie is very mysterious. Without being in contact, if it had been in real contact with the movie, it would have been affected. If the screen had been really in contact with the movie, then whatever is going on in the movie will affect the screen. But does it happen? The screen's relationship with the movie is very mysterious. Without being in contact with the movie, everything is going on. That is our true nature. Without actually being in contact with the three states, we are pervading the three states. We are pervading the three states without being in contact with the three states. That's why we are eternally unaffected. We can't be affected in our true nature. Everything is in me, nothing is in me. Both the statements. I pervade everything without touching anything. I am untouched. I am the originator of everything, sustainer of everything, without actually existing in anyone. All mutually opposing statements, contradictory statements. This is the picture of the supreme reality which we are referring to as God, and this is the connection between God and the so-called world. This world, in short, what Shankaracharya and Sri Krishna wants to say is that this world is the creation of Maya. It is not an actual thing which is existing. If it were an actual thing which is existing and there had been a second thing called God, then even God would have become affected by what it has created. And if God becomes affected, then there is no God at all. So the highest reality which we are talking about as God or consciousness is of this kind. And now, to illustrate this next verse, let us just look into this illustration. It's a beautiful illustration where Sri Krishna says, he says, Yatha kasha sthito nityam vayu sarvatra gomahan tatha sarvani bhutani matstani iti upadharaya. Beautiful. Sri Krishna is giving a beautiful illustration here. He is saying, what is the relationship between wind and space? Yatha akasha sthito nityam vayuhu sarvatra go mahan tatha sarvani bhutani matsthani iti upadharaya. Upadharaya. Krishna is saying, please understand, my dear children, please understand this point. Whatever I told, I know it is going to be very difficult. So he is giving an illustration for us to just comprehend this, what has been told. The relationship between the screen and the movie, the relationship between consciousness and the so-called Jagat. Beautiful illustration. He is saying there is wind blowing. Where is this wind blowing? This wind is blowing in the space, is it not? Space is that platform on which the wind is blowing. Now, what is the connection between space and wind? Is the space getting affected by the blowing wind? Space in itself is absolutely unaffected. Krishna is saying that yatha akasha sthito nityam vayu sarvatrago mahan. Sarvatrago means the wind which is blowing in different directions. And mahan means voluminous, huge. This huge wind which is blowing, where is it sthitam? Akasha sthitam. It is existing or dwelling in the space. Tatha sarvani bhutani matsthani iti upadharaya. Similar is the existence of the so-called world in me. Beautiful. Me means consciousness. This world is existing in me. Me means consciousness, just like the wind is existing in the space. You can say the wind is dwelling in the space, but the space is not dwelling in the wind. This entire world is dwelling in God. It is existing in God. It means that it is deriving its reality from God. Minus God, what we are experiencing here has got no existence at all. As I said before, this very experience, what we are looking for. Now, what is the conclusion that we have to draw from this discussion for today? You will have to go back and do a lot of rumination over what you have heard today. We are all in search of God, is it not? We are searching for God here and there in temples, everywhere. We are looking for God outside. That is the human tendency. What to do? Human mind is programmed that way. We always see the tendency of the organs, sense organs, is always to look outside. Can't help it. Kathopanishad. Paranchi khani vatranat swayambhu tasmat parang pashati nantaratman. What to do? These organs are always programmed to look outside. And owing to this very programming, even God, we look for God outside. And we want God in a certain form. Whereas the truth is that, again, let me repeat, this entity called God which we are looking for, it is not anywhere here and there. It is right there in our experience itself. Our every experience is soaked and saturated with the presence of God. That God which is in everything without being in contact with anything. This sentence is important. God is present in everything without being in contact with anything, because actually speaking, there is no second entity existing apart from God. That is what Krishna is trying to make us understand here. God is present in everything without being in contact with anything. Everything is dwelling in God, but God is not dwelling in anything, means God cannot be limited by anything. And the second thing which we are talking about, it is a mysterious thing. It is an experience of something which is not actually existing. And this is what is exemplified here, illustrated here by the illustration of the wind dwelling in space. Or you can also take another beautiful, in all the Vedantic books that illustration comes, Ghatakasha and Mahakasha. Ghatam. Where is this Ghatam? Ghatam means spot. Where is this spot existing? It is existing in space. Inside the Ghatam is space. Outside the Ghatam is space. In the space, all these so-called Ghatams are floating, is it not? Now see, if you just look into it, this every so-called physical structure is just like pots, so many pots. Where are these pots floating? It is floating in the space called God. Again, let me repeat. See, every structure is like a pot here. You differentiate it saying it is male, it's female. This is all again further complications and further hypnosis. Every framework is just like a pot. Inside the pot is a space. Space means here consciousness or God. Outside the pot is space, means consciousness, God. All these things are existing in the space or consciousness. Is that space limited by any of these things? It cannot be limited. Everything is existing in that space, and yet you can say nothing is existing in that space. That space is pervading everything without being in contact with anything. That is the most important thing. The contactlessness of this so-called space of consciousness. It is not in contact with anything. That is our true nature. So the conclusion to be drawn from this is that we are all that unaffected, or that reality which is not in contact with anything material. Its immanence is absolutely existing without its transcendence getting compromised. This reality is immanent, and yet it is absolutely transcendent, means it is not in touch with anything apart from its own self. This is the picture of the ultimate reality. This is what Sri Krishna referred to in the starting of this Gita as Raja Vidya. Raja means is the highest reality which we are going to talk about. So 9th chapter, as I said, it is going to be a perfect blend of highest jnanam. Now this will find its expression in the form of the simplest acts of devotion. That is what is going to come in the next few verses beautifully. After some days it will come. This highest knowledge that there is only one consciousness which is existing. Now, how it will find expression in the form of simple acts of devotion and bhakti. That is what is waiting to come in the 9th chapter. And when we have this perfect blend between bhakti and jnana, that is what Krishna says will make us experience the fragrance of freedom right now, here itself, not after death. When you have this vision of this consciousness existing in this way, the way we have discussed here, when you begin to see this one reality throbbing in everything, that reality without being in contact with anything else, because actually speaking, there is no second entity with which it can be in contact with. When we catch this point perfectly, you see, that is the beginning of our experience of true freedom. Freedom from all misery and suffering in life. Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam, the greatest secret, the most profound thing. Now, the next few verses will discuss this very point from verse, it says, from verse 7 to 10. This very idea continues now. Beautiful. From 7 to 10, Krishna presents the picture of creation, sustenance, and dissolution. All this is happening here. What is it happening? Creation, sustenance, and dissolution. Srishti, Sthiti, and Pralayam means the movie. And where is this movie going on? On the screen of Brahman. Brahman, on the screen of Brahman, the so-called, the movie of Srishti, Sthiti, and Pralaya is going on in and through the Maya of Brahman. Brahman's own Maya is producing the so-called the mysterious movie. So Brahman, on Brahman, this movie of Srishti, Sthiti, and Pralaya is being experienced without Brahman being in contact with anything. Again, this contactlessness of Brahman will continue in the next 4 verses also. It is very important. The contactlessness of Brahman means our contactlessness, your contactlessness. We are actually speaking absolutely untouched by the so-called happenings in this movie. Just like no matter what is going on in the movie, the screen is absolutely unaffected. Is anything happening to the screen? Can anything happen to the screen? Nothing can happen to the screen. Nothing can happen to the screen means nothing can happen to you. 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 This is the point. What a great consolation it is. All our ideas of being born, all our ideas of being dying, birth and death, and all the so-called different stages of life, which is full of misery, this is all happening in a dream-like state. Shankaracharya is beautiful. He says, Kastvam koham kutayat, kame janani kome tat, Iti paribhavaya sarvamasaram vishvam tyaktva swapna vicharam bhaja govindam govindam bhaja mudhamate samprapte sannihite marane nahi nahi rakshati tunkrin karane. So beautiful. Ask yourself this question, Kastvam, who are you? Who am I? Who is my father? Who is my mother? Who is my husband? Who is my wife? Who are these children? Investigate, investigate. And when you investigate, when you probe into it, you will see this is all just like a movie which is going on, a dream-like movie which is going on. And where is this movie going on? It is going on inside your own self. You are the screen on which this movie is going on. You are that screen, absolutely untouched by this movie. The contactlessness of the screen, the contactlessness of Brahman, the contactlessness of Atman and consciousness, the contactlessness of God. This is the highest picture of supreme reality, God. This is what Krishna is presenting to you. We'll see the next verses. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat.